Welcome. This is Impact 2022, our continuing conversation where we have conversations, discussions, disagreements about different topics, where we talk about current events, where we talk about race, where we talk about different things that are going on in the world right now. And so, like every week, we ask and we encourage people to type in their comments and their questions into the comment and question section because this is a continuing conversation where um, we talk about all of our different topics. And so, if you type in your comments and your questions, we will then be able to address them as they come up. We're having a little problem with our comments and question thing coming up, but please feel free to type them in anyway. All right, just as always, we're going to hop right into the conversation. We're going to hop right into our discussion tonight. And our discussion tonight, well, there it goes, the comments and questions. Our discussion tonight revolves around the current events of what has happened and what has been occurring. And as we've talked about in previous weeks, gun violence. And the uptick in some of the gun violence that we've seen in the news and the media, going on with the shooting in Buffalo, with going on with the shooting in Uvalde, with going on with the numerous mass shootings that have been occurring this year, and the extremely high numbers that we have. And so with us, we have a guest. Let's see if we can get them in here. We're having a little bit of lag, technical difficulties going on. So we'll just roll with it and see how it goes. All right. Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So far. All right. Just to keep it rolling. Here we go. And bear with us one moment, please, as we get these technical difficulties worked out. All right. All right, let's see if we can bring our guest in. Chris, can you hear me? Okay. All right. So let's hop right into it. This week we're talking about gun violence, what we've talked about previously, and one of the things that's really been going on. You've seen what's happening in the news. You've seen the recent occurrences of what has gone on in Uvalde, Texas, with the young kids. You've seen what's gone on in Buffalo, where the person decided to shoot at people purely because of race. In Buffalo, a white man decided to shoot at area of Black people. In Alabama, there were shootings at churches. And there's just been a mass number of shootings throughout the country, especially this year in 2022. We're on pace to top 2021 with mass shootings. We're at the same pace, and we're going to top 2021 with mass shootings. And 2021 was one of the most deadliest years of mass shootings in the United States. And so what we want to talk about today is solutions. And we're going to go through some of the solutions that have been proposed. And just as a nugget here is that the Senate leadership has just approved a bill to try to tackle some of the issues when it comes to gun violence. And their bill has red flag laws, the boyfriend loophole, different things like that. We can discuss what that is. But number one that they said to stop shootings, and number one that you hear people say is, we need more guns, not less. Everyone needs to be armed. Everyone needs a gun. Tell me, how do you feel about that concept?
Well, if everybody had a gun, everybody would shoot back. So that's definitely not the way you could kill this, that would make everything worse, because then you have more people with no training, just having guns, and certain people, get real scared real quick, and so it would be a lot of accidental deaths, a lot of accidental shots being fired. It's not a great idea. More guns is definitely not going to be the best idea for that.
Right, right.
But we do got to remember, and a lot of people aren't really talking about this, but this country was built on the whole concept of you come over here and, if you have the right to have a weapon. That's the Second Amendment. That was after free speech. They felt like everybody needed to be able to carry a gun. That's what the founders did, but I know it wasn't for that specific reason so people can just have guns. It was so if there was a situation that people can be called on to serve for military purposes. Because the Second Amendment says we need to have a well-regulated militia. And because of that, everybody needs to be able to carry a weapon. And so our country is built on the whole idea that everybody should be able to be armed. But I think we need to readdress that. Does everybody need to be armed? And I think we really need to come to grips with, and really answer that question. Does everybody need to be armed?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we live in a society where, now you can't go to the most safe places on earth are supposed to be your hospital, your church, and your school.
Mm-hmm.
These are the places that are getting shot up.
Right.
Does everybody need to be armed? And that's the question I think we really need to answer.
I think you made a good point because you talked about something that people consistently go to when they're trying to defend their rights to guns, and they're trying to defend that guns are absolute. And they're saying that the Second Amendment says you have the right to have a gun. You have the right to bear arms. And as you said, it was for the militia purposes. However, when we sit back and we look at things, you have the right to drive. You have the right to do a lot of other things that were not addressed in the Constitution. The only reason cars were probably not put in the Constitution is because they didn't exist then. The point of what I'm making here is all other rights you're being able to be restricted on. In order to get a car, a vehicle, in order to drive, you must earn that right. You must take tests. You must have a clean record and keep that clean record, and that right can be revoked.
And you got to pay insurance.
Right. You have to pay insurance. You have to pay you have to pay to play. But when it comes to a gun, they argue that there shouldn't be anything. In Ohio, they just recently took away the requirement for having a concealed. In order to have a concealed weapon, they took away the requirements, which required that you had 40 hours or 40 to 60 hours of training. They reduced that to 20, and then they said you no longer have to have a card that you have to carry around, and you no longer have to have the concealed weapon license, and you no longer have to inform a police officer upon arriving around them that you have a concealed weapon. So they're reducing the amount of burden that it has to get a gun instead of increasing it. And the reason it being is because they say that one is a right that we have under the Constitution. But is it just because it was in the Constitution? What about all other stuff? Like I said, cars not in the Constitution. Well,
it's a justification for people to make it easier for certain people to have guns. Let me go back to the Second Amendment again. Like the whole purpose for that well-regulated militia. And remember, this is 1789, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole purpose for it was so if the slaves got out of control, we can get together, get a group of people to put them back in their place.
Mm-hmm.
The Second Amendment is essentially a slave law. And so it's a law to kind of prevent any kind of unrest. And at that time, what was the biggest source of unrest? Slave revolts. So it was put in place so, slaveholders, property owners could protect their property in case of a slave revolt. Now, who are these? You got to think about who are these lawmakers making these, or reducing these restrictions for? They're not doing it for African Americans. They're not doing it for Hispanics. They're doing it for those people that it was intended for. And I think we always have to pay attention because race is so deeply woven into the fabric of this country. We really need to pay attention to that kind of stuff because it's not. The 94 crime bill actually put black people in jail for having guns.
Yeah. You
know, and so now, you're reducing it. You're making it easier for certain people to get guns, but you're making it difficult for another group to get guns. So we got to pay attention to all of this stuff.
We have a comment, but before I go to that comment, I want to point out that what you just explained was critical race theory. That is what critical race theory is. It is the examination of the laws, past and present, and how race has affected those laws. So when you sit back and you're looking at the Second Amendment and you're breaking down the fact that some of that was to control the African American, the black population at that time, that's critical race theory of how the laws are currently affected, and they're based upon racist or the degree to which amount of racist thought was put into them at their inception. And so for all those people who sit back and be like, I don't understand what critical race theory is, you just explained it right then and there. Let's move on to this comment, which says, and I don't know if, there we go. We now have the National Guard and a standing army. We don't need a militia today. So basically, I think he's pointing out that, the Second Amendment kind of is a moot point in that sense. You still, we can still have guns, but you no longer have the need for a militia because we have the National Guard, because we have a federal, we have a federal army as well. So you have the army and you have the National Guard and you have the state guards as well. So you no longer really need that Second Amendment right. How do you feel about that as well? Is that hits on your point?
I mean, does everybody really need to be armed?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have. If it's for safety purposes, or even if it's in to reduce civic unrest, January 6th. Why does everybody need to have a gun?
Yeah.
We have police forces. Every city has a police force. Every municipality has a police force. Every state has a police force. We have National Guards in every state, and we have a military. Why do we need regular, ordinary citizens to have guns? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, let's click on some of their solutions that have been put out. And you can just tell me, do you think it has any merit? Is it going to help, or is it just a waste of time? The first one, after Uvalde, Texas, came out and they said that teachers need to now be armed and to have guns to stop or prevent the mass shootings in schools. How do you feel about that one?
Stupid. I'm a teacher myself. We're not trained professionals. So you're going to spend time training teachers to have guns just in case you have a mass shooting incident in your school. And so now you have a teacher or several teachers that have guns in their classroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah. All right. One of the other solutions is to raise the age from 18 to 21 to legally purchase your own individual handgun. So right now you can have guns at any age, but to purchase your own handgun, you have to be 18 years old. Raising the age to 21.
All right. I personally first shot a pistol when I was 14. I don't know how that's going to stop me. I don't understand how that's going to work because there are people that are legally not able to get, weapons. They can't purchase them, but they end up with weapons anyway.
Yeah.
Can't stop. That's not going to work.
The next one
That was a
is
better one than the first one, though.
better than that's what most people have said. And just as a side note, when they had the National Teachers Association a couple of years back, they voted on whether or not they said, just a poll, and it was 60% that said that they did not want to have guns. So the National Teachers Association confirms what you're saying. But let's move on to the next one. The next one, or the next solution that they have, is to eliminate military-style weapons. How do you feel about that one? And that's AR-15s, machine guns, anything that basically replicates something of a weapon of war, not a hunting rifle or a handgun for just basic protection, but something with a high capacity. The tools that have been used in these mass shootings for the most part.
Right. Again, you could do that. Actually, that should be a law that is in place. But isn't it illegal to sell AK-47s in the United States? I don't know.
AK-47s, yes. AR-15s.
It is, but AK-47s are illegal.
Yeah, I think. You know what? I don't know. Let me take that back.
Okay.
I
do believe is you're not capable of having one, but I know somebody that has
one. Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody in there, but I know people that have these weapons. You can't stop these guns from getting. It's just like drugs. You can't stop heroin from coming into the country. Can't stop. There's so many things that we can't stop. We can't stop. Sex trafficking. We can't stop. Immigration, illegal immigration. We can't stop that. You're not going to stop it. I don't see a way for you to stop it. There's always going to be a black market for things that people want, and people want these guns in America. That means they just want them.
Yeah. All right. To the solutions, two of the solutions which they did today. They're called the red flag laws and the boyfriend loophole. Real quickly, the red flag laws are giving the states the ability to take away your right to have a gun based on such scenarios as mental issues, criminal record, different things like that. So that's the first part. Those are red flag laws. The federal government is giving more states the ability to do that if they pass this law. And then the second one is the boyfriend loophole. In most states right now, if you are a domestic abuser and you are married, if you were domestically abused as a woman or a man, and your spouse, a woman or a man, domestically abused you, they would lose their right to have a gun. However, if you were domestically abused as a boyfriend or girlfriend, that boyfriend or girlfriend that abused you does not lose their right to have a gun because they're not married to you. So that's called the boyfriend loophole. So if you're convicted of abuse in those scenarios, you don't have to give up your guns just because you weren't married. So those are the two that are being put on the table, along with some other stuff today. Do you feel like those help in any way?
I do not, but I'm going to give the Senate some appreciation because they're trying. They're trying to find the right way to keep it so that they're not eliminating the right for some people, and they're eliminated for the people that they feel like don't need to have guns. And so, and I guess we need to really get to the place where, look, do we want to have guns or not have guns? I think, politicians, their job is to try to play the middle and get elected, but we need to stop playing around. Do we want people to have guns, or do we not want people to have guns? That's where we got to really start considering that. I mean, we keep saying we're tired of these school shootings. If we're tired of the school shootings, get the guns out of regular people's hands. The only people that should be, the only people that really need to have guns are police, officers of the law, and military. If that's where we want to go, that's where we need to go. And then that way you kill anybody saying, well, I got a right to it. No, you only got a right to it if you're law enforcement or you're military. So we need to just need to make the hard decision.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of comments. We're gonna roll on those. So, if the police have a problem with stopping mass shootings, what is an armed teacher supposed to do? Yeah.
I don't know.
You're right. At the end of the day, one of the things you're gonna have an armed teacher with a pistol, and you're gonna have a mass shooting person coming in there with an assault rifle. I don't think that's gonna work out too well.
And you gotta remember these teachers are not trained in urban combat. So, like, are you gonna run them through a police style training in order for them to be able to be skilled enough to stop this from happening? It's a lot. And then having a gun in the classroom, and you got students in there, it's just too much. That's ridiculous. To me, it's ridiculous. I don't want to.
No, I
don't want to come at anybody else's opinion. These comments are mine and only mine. They have no reflection on Impact 2022. I'm just a guest.
The good part about what you're saying is it's backed up by what the majority of teachers are saying, according to the Teachers Association, National Teachers Association. So it's not like you're coming out here just spitting some stuff where you don't know. Plus, you're a teacher, so I mean, you're talking from a educated standpoint. You're not just some random person talking for teachers, and you've never stepped in the classroom. So you're definitely coming from a place of knowledge. Another comment: maybe certain people feel they need guns because of how they have and are treating people. Some people would like to go back to the period before 1863.
For sure.
Yeah. You know why this is a good point? Because you see people who are and again, I draw a line between a difference between, hunting rifles and then or pistols and then those larger guns. And the reason I draw a line there is because I see people who are small mentally or physically who get the gun to kind of make up for that. So it's to fill a hole of an insecurity where you're having some people who are just really scared. Sometimes sometimes you see that, and I know I used to see that when I was young. You had that little kid who used to get beat up all the time, or that little kid you small, or somebody who's just a little soft. And now you walk around with a gun because you think that makes you something different. So I have seen that, and those are you do have that group of people, honestly. Yeah. But here's a comment here. I want you to address this one. Me personally, I like to hunt game and put meat on the table. So what do you say to that comment? To those people who like to hunt, and that's what they use their guns for. So they have hunting rifles and other things such as that. What would you say to those folks?
I mean, hunting is a sport, just like baseball, tennis. It's a sport. So in that sense, you're talking about sporting equipment. A gun, a shotgun, a rifle. They're at that point they are sport equipment, but handguns. People don't hunt with handguns. Handguns are designed specifically as a defensive tool. Now, and I don't want to come out and say that I'm anti-gun. I'm not really anti-gun. I'm not. I do recognize that there's a culture behind guns, especially in certain communities where you really do need a gun as a protection. And then there's some communities where it's just kind of instilled in what they do. Some communities they hunt. Some communities you need it. Some people need guns for the lifestyle that they live. I'm not against guns. I don't feel like everybody needs to have a gun. I think if we start, like you were saying earlier, if we start looking at guns the same way we look at cars and and other heavy duty equipment, like if we start looking at guns like that, where you have to insure your gun, where you have to have a universal test not just your state test. Like it needs to be like a federally approved test that demonstrates you understand how this firearm, how to operate it, how to clean it, how to take care of it, maintain it. And if any accident happens, you have to have insurance to pay for it. So if anybody gets hurt or injured because of your weapon, you are going to be held accountable, and your insurance company is going to have to deal with that. And so, and on top of any illegal things that you do with it, you have to deal with the law. So, I mean, that's the same way it operates with cars. Am I correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, if I hit somebody with my car, my insurance is going to take care of them. And then on top of that, I have to deal with the legal ramifications. What if this boy in Buffalo had insurance on his gun? Okay, so now he's got to pay for every last person he killed's funeral. His insurance company has to pay for that, and he has to go and deal with the jail time.
Yeah. And if you were forced to have insurance on guns, it's going to be an astronomical amount of money. Now, they do have insurance through the NRA and the American Rifle Association. NRA and the American Rifle Association. They do have those insurances, but it's not like the cars. Like you're hitting on a point there. Let's get to this next comment. Remember, the word teaches that those who live by the sword will die by the sword. And to put a earthly or a real, not real world, an earthly or a
secular.
Anyway, to put another spin on it, it's been stated time and time again by law enforcement and other organizations that having a gun in your household makes your household less safe. Because it makes your household more likely to have a gun violence issue. So households who don't have guns, ironically, there's less gun violence. But households who do have guns, whether it's internal or external, have more gun violence. So the word is telling you exactly what the world backs up with statistics. What do you think about that comment?
Hey, I've never owned a gun in my home. I've never been robbed. I've never been burglarized, or there's been no attempted armed robberies. The only person that's flashed a gun on me been police, ironically. But that's, I do believe that. I believe, people that, if you seek out a gun for protection, if that's your source of protection, that's the only thing you have to rely on. So I don't look at guns as a source of protection. I have a way higher power that looks after.
We're going to hop into the next comment, but before we get there, one of the safe, just as a PSA, public service announcement, dogs are the number one thing to keep you safe in your home. They're the number one deterrent for criminal activity. As long as you're not in something, now if you were part of a gang or something like that, dogs ain't gonna do nothing. But if you don't want anybody to rob your house or do anything like that, dogs are the number one deterrent.
And that's not having that pit bull tied to that old car in the backyard either. That's like actually treating your dogs with, letting them come inside.
Even if you got the littlest dog, as soon as they hear that bark, man, they move on. For the most part, that's the number one deterrent. It doesn't mean it's absolute, because I know plenty of people will tell stories. They'll be like, "Well, my aunt got robbed and she got a dog." Like, no, it's let's deal with the stats. But let's go to this comment. I even go as far as donating meat whenever possible to someone who hunts. And some people don't have the correct mindset to possess firearms, and I agree 100% with having insurance. I think you might have hit something really hard on the head there with the insurance situation and the liability when it comes to guns. Recently, and I know we're running past our time. Recently, there was a story. I don't know if you heard about this, but in Texas, at a summer camp, a gentleman came up to the summer camp with a firearm and shot the firearm, and then the police came and shot him. So nobody was killed, but it was at a summer camp for kids, and he came up there to do something. He was not legally able to have a gun. However, his wife was legally able to have a gun. He took her gun and then went over to the place and then got shot. So in your scenario, she would be legally responsible if anybody wanted to sue. And rightfully, she said she locked it up and all that kind of stuff, but But just to put that out there. Last comment, then we're going to have to get on out of here because we're past our time. If it will come up. Maybe if you live in a way that you need a gun, you may need to change how you live. What do you think about that one?
Hey, I can't talk against that one. That makes a whole lot of sense. If you need a gun, you might need to change the way you live it. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
That's good. Well, all right, that time is gone. It's gone quickly, man. I think this was a productive conversation on guns, especially the part where you're bringing up insurance. You're bringing up that everyone doesn't need one. And then, at the same time, respecting the fact that, different people have different opinions on these guns. Some people hunt. Some people are collectors. Some people are scared. Whatever their reason and their rationale is, for me, no one needs that weapon of war, though. You don't need that AK. You don't need that AR-15. You don't need any of these high-capacity machine gun automatic weapons. You can't hunt anything with that. Plus, if you at the house and some robbers are trying to come and you shooting that, you in trouble. You in trouble personally. Like, you're in trouble because you're probably going to kill everybody else in your house as well. So, which is, your spouse, your kids, who your next door neighbor, like, you can't. It's not going down like that. So, but yes, I think this is a productive conversation. I appreciate all the comments that came in, everybody that put in comments. Chris, as always, man, thank you for coming on the show. And please.
Hey, no problem, man. Appreciate it. Always appreciate the time.
All right. And that is it for us. This is Impact 2022. Have a good one and have a